Betsy Block, and we are here with Robert James Healey at his home, 1141 Angela Court, Atlanta, Georgia, 30319. Could you please state for the camera what your rank and branch of service and what war you served in?
In the U.S. Navy. What was the other thing?
Your rank?
Well, when I came out of service, I was the second-class petty officer.
Mm-hmm. And which war did you serve in?
World War II.
Oh. Okay, so were you drafted or did you enlist? Were you
I volunteered.
Okay.
As soon as I graduated from high school, I felt like we needed to win the war, so I volunteered immediately. I graduated in June 43 and was in the service July 50.
And why did you pick your branch of service?
This is going to sound a little negative,
That's okay.
but I figured if I was going to get killed, I wanted to sleep in a clean bed the night before.
That makes sense. How did your family feel about you enlisting?
Neither one of them wanted me to go because my brother had already gone,
Mm-hmm.
and I was the only one left at home.
Was your brother in the Navy too?
Yes, he was on the USS Idaho.
So you heard a little bit about it.
Oh yeah.
So do you recall your first days of service?
Sure do.
Mm-hmm.
There was 200 of us in what they called a battalion. And when we arrived at Sampson Naval Training School, they asked to get to know what type of educational background we all had. The chief recommended that anybody who had a college education take 5 steps forward. Well, out of 200 men, there may have been 4 or 5. Then the next group, he said, those who have a high school education take 4 steps forward, which I was in that group, so I took 4 steps forward. The next, he said, well, how many of you have a partial 2 or 3 years high school education? And quite a few men jumped forward. And there was only a few left back in line. And the chief said, okay, then we'll start off with the college guys. You start picking up all the cigarette butts. In the second line, you high school graduates, you pick up all that they missed. And the third group, if you find anything that they missed, you want to let me know. And that fourth group, you are the supervisors.
Wow.
That we learned to mean that regardless of your education, you are here to learn what the United States Navy was all about. And believe me, we did.
Where was this camp?
Sampson, up in Sampson, New York.
Oh, okay. And where did you live before you joined the service?
On Long Island.
Oh, okay. So you remember your boot camp and training experiences?
Very, very well. Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and going to bed at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, if you were allowed to sleep.
Gosh. So what were your instructors like?
Very demanding, but very fair.
And how did you get through it?
Well, I got through it pretty good. I feel that I qualified for, after many tests that you had to take, I qualified for what they call radio school. And that's when I was shipped out of radio school out to Miami University out in Ohio. And that's there were about 30 of us sent out there. And I happened to be fortunate to play basketball. So I was able to play a year of basketball with Miami University in Ohio, where we went to Madison Square Garden. So they wanted me to stay there because we had gotten an invitation to the National Invitation Tournament but at the same time I qualified for advanced radio training, and I decided at that point that this was an opportunity for me. I can play basketball some other place and some other time. So I was taken and went to Cheltenham, Washington, D.C. for advanced training in radio work. And then this is where I was sworn out of the Navy and into naval intelligence. And I was there for about 3 months.
And naval intelligence works with communication, or what's the difference between?
Yes, part of it is communications, but there's other facets of it as well in the intelligence part of the service. But my part was in communications.
And so after Washington, D.C., you were working there doing what?
This was school. This was another school, advanced training in radio work. And then from there, we took an airplane from there to San Francisco. And that was an experience. We went through thunderstorms, and it was the first time I ever was in an airplane, and we bounced all over the sky. And I was in charge of the group. There were 15 of us that went out to San Francisco to catch the first flight to Pearl Harbor. And when I walked into the airport, not the airport, it was part of the Navy at that time, and I put our credentials onto the person who was taking care of us. And they said, well, the China Clipper will be the first one out. But we have to notify all of these generals and admirals that they have been kicked off that flight. So they called all the admirals and generals and what have you, and they told them what had happened. The next thing I know, one of the admirals said, well, just hold on here a minute. Just let me make a few phone calls. So we made a few phone calls, so we got kicked off the China Clipper. And we wound up, split up into 15 of us into two Navy amphibious planes, and we flew out to Pearl Harbor. We had to spend the night though that evening, any place we could find a place to sleep in. Another guy and myself, we found a pool hall, and we slept on the pool table until the next morning. We reported back, and then we took a flight over to Pearl. And that was a very interesting thing too. There was a Japanese sub between San Francisco and Pearl Harbor. And of course we notified, the pilot did, that this Jap sub was down there. And I would say within an hour, along came a torpedo plane of ours, and we found out later that he had sunk the Japanese sub. Of course, you got to remember back then, the only island that we had, or islands we had, was Pearl Harbor. All the Hawaiian Islands were the only things that we had. We had already lost everything else. So then we landed in Pearl, and we stayed in Pearl Harbor there for, let me see, I was there for about 2 years. And then, of course, we transferred up to the mountain area of Oahu, which is the island we were on, to a little town called Wahiawa. And that was in the middle of a pineapple field. So of course we had what they called then was 8-hour watches, so you transferred, you'd have to work maybe the 8 to 4 in the morning and afternoon, and the 4 to 12, and then the 12 to 8. Well, of course the best shift was the 12 to 8, because we could go out in the middle of the pineapple field and slice us off a pineapple and bring it in and put it in the fridge and have some pineapple during the day. I don't know. I can't get into actually what we did, but all I can say is that I knew when the war was over about a week ahead of time.
Were you able to keep in touch with your family while you were there?
Oh yes. Yeah. But when I wrote my first letter, I told my mother everything. And when she got the letter, she got the salutation and the ending, and that was it. She said, so please, when you're writing, just tell me you're okay or something. Don't write anything else in there.
So, what were your most memorable experiences? Was it working, or was it free time, or?
Well, I enjoyed the work. I'll say that. I enjoyed the work very much because I was a supervisor of one of the watches, and I enjoyed that. I think probably the best time I guess I ever had was, as I mentioned earlier, my brother was on the USS Idaho, which was a battleship. It's all the state battle wagons. And I found out that he was coming in to Pearl. So I asked for the time off. We knew exactly when he was supposed to anchor, and he did not know that I was going to be there. So this friend of mine and we didn't know how we were going to swing it, but we went down to Pearl and found what they call one of these skiffs. And we asked him if he would take us out to the Idaho. It's not quite docked yet. We're anchored in. And he says, yeah, we'll see if we can get you on. So we went on out there, and this friend of mine and we went out there, and we asked the lieutenant if we could come aboard. And we did. When we got up there, he says, what's your destiny? What do you want to do? And I told him my brother. And he said, what was his name? And I told him my brother's name was Edward Healey. And he says, oh yeah, he says, I know him. He says, he's Seagull. That was the nickname they had given him. So he said, he's going down into the chow line now. You could probably catch him down there. Well, I started walking down. They asked the guys to move over because I was in whites when they were all in dungarees. So they knew I was a visitor. They're going to be in whites going down there. So we did, and I saw my brother out to get some food, and I yelled, Edward, and he dropped everything. So we had a nice reunion. And he got off the next day, so we met in Hawaii, and we stayed at the, let's see, where did we stay that time? We stayed, it was at the Pualelani Hotel. He had a friend that came from Georgia here. His name was Dan Ayers. Came from Royston, Georgia. So he and Dan and his friend of mine who was Phil Huntley and me, we spent two nights together there at Waikiki Beach, because this was right on the beach in Pualelani. And we had a great time visiting. And I had the opportunity either one or more times when he pulled in to Pearl to see him. So that was a very, very nice thing that could happen to two brothers.
It's a great story. So, did you have plenty of supplies?
Pardon?
Did you have plenty of supplies on the island? Or?
Oh yeah, it was pretty good food. We had powdered milk. We had powdered mashed potatoes. But you know, those type of things, you get used to eating. And you look for it. There's a lot of things that you didn't like. But if you wanted to not starve, you ate it and you like it. So I had no problem with the food. Or the drink.
Did you ever feel stressed while you were there?
Oh yeah. We all did. We all did. But we always were homesick. I think anybody that said they weren't homesick was lying. We all were homesick because we were all just come out of, most of it just come out of high school. And never been away from home for any amount of time. And we're all eager to get this mess over with and get on with it.
How did people entertain themselves while you were on the island?
We had picnics, and we'd go to the other end of the island, which was not habited, and we would have all kinds of I'm not going to say this and say it right. Because we had women out there. There were ways, and we would try to live as normal a life as we could. So we had good food. We take sandwiches with us, and just like we do today. Go off on a picnic somewhere, regular type things.
Do you recall any particularly funny events or unusual events?
Wish I had time to think about that one. Let me see. No, I can't talk about
nothing. Did you take pictures while you were there?
Oh yeah. That was one of the things my mother required me to do, since my brother could not do it. But I tried to take as many pictures as I possibly could of myself and surroundings, so we were able to take pictures. And also, of course, when I saw my brother or any of my other friends, I always had pictures and was able to send them back to them, so they would appreciate it.
Did you keep a diary or a journal?
No. That was not an important factor to me. It was one of the last things I could think about was making a diary. It was just get this thing over with and get on home. Oh, I think you'd asked me about anything funny. I remember when I was getting ready to be discharged out of the Naval Intelligence, this chief came up to me and said, Bob, we'd love to have you remain in service with us. And we're willing to offer you a chief's rating with special privileges and all that bit. And I looked at him and I said, I knew him very well. He says, are you kidding? He said, no, I've got to ask you that. I said, I think I know what you're going to say. And I said, well, you're absolutely correct. I said, I came in here to win this war, and I did. Now I want out. I love the Navy, but all of it was not for me. I like to be able to say what I'm going to be doing, not somebody telling me what to be doing in my life.
So, do you remember the day the war ended, how you felt?
I don't remember the day, but I remember what occurred that day. We had gotten word that the Japanese, through I guess I can say this, transferred the surrender through the Swedish embassy. And it was an unconditional surrender. Very happy.
Did you hear about the VE Day as well?
Oh yeah. Yeah, but that was like another war somewhere else. Because we knew that one was going to be over first because of the way it was going. And ours was just starting to really get moving. We knew this one was going to get over with too. But we knew that it would be And especially when we got those troops starting to come over to the Pacific from the Atlantic theater, European theater, why, it would take no time at all. And of course, when we heard about the bomb, why, that stopped the movement of the troops from Europe over to the Pacific.
So when did your service end?
March of 1946.
And so, and you said, you know, you had the option of going back
Sure.
into the Navy, but
Yeah.
you decided not to. And so you were happy when it ended, do you think, or was it bittersweet?
Yeah, I never saw that. Happy in my life to know that, well, number one, we won the war.
Mm-hmm.
That was the objective,
Right.
and we did. And the fact now that I knew it would be just a question of time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, maybe a month, 2 months before I'd be finished with it all, when I'll start my life.
Mm-hmm. And did you go back to New York right afterwards, or?
Oh yes, I went on home.
Mm-hmm.
Lived with my mother until September of '46, and then came to Georgia and played basketball at Georgia for 4 years.
Did you make any close friends while you were in service?
Oh yes. As a matter of fact, I wound up in college with one of them. Met him, he was walking down the campus, and I didn't know he was there. And all of a sudden, I just thought, well, there he is. I haven't seen him in a long time. In fact, I've been trying to remember his name now, and I can't remember. But we lived very closely, as you can imagine, in Hawaii. And we came back together on the same ship that docked in California and came across country by train. It takes a week. And that would be a good story sometime to tell.
Mm-hmm. Well, feel free to tell.
I know, I can't tell it at this point.
So did you keep in track with, keep up with the other people you met?
Oh yeah, some of them, yeah. Well, in fact, one of them wound up in the FBI. His name was Cordasco, I remember him. Cordasco, good guy. Another fellow, a friend of mine, Huntley, he graduated from Muskingum College in Ohio. Ray Burns, that's the guy I met down here in Georgia. He graduated from Georgia. In fact, he was president of our senior class. And I ran into another guy, but I can't remember his name right now. I was at Madison Square Garden playing ball, and he was an usher in Madison Square Garden. And he came down on the floor to say hello to me. So that was another one I can't remember any of the others.
So why Georgia? Was that where the basketball scholarship?
Well, yeah, that was one of the scholarships that I had. I'd never been south, to be very honest. I figured I'd only spend 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I came down here to play.
Mm-hmm.
Then I found out that my high school education permitted me to not have to work too hard at studying, and so I just went on and said, hey, I'm going to just graduate. So I did.
Did you join a veterans organization ever?
Yeah, I joined the American Legion. I guess I was a member of the Legion for about maybe 8 or 10 years. But it was more for accommodation than it was for anything else. It wasn't. Just when you're traveling in the state of Georgia, and if you wanted to have a beer or anything, you had to belong to one of these services because there was no alcoholic beverages in the state of Georgia at that time.
So what did you go on to do as a career after Georgia.
Well, let's see. I graduated from Georgia. I played a year of professional basketball.
Wow.
And I got beat up pretty bad. Because I was only weighed about 165 pounds at the time. And I was 6'2", so I believe I started thinking about the little house with picket fence. So I started to determine what actually I wanted to do, which I graduated in with a degree in education with a minor in accounting. So I decided, well, I'll try my hand at coaching. And I started looking around, and found out that there wasn't enough money in teaching that I felt would satisfy me and get the things that I wanted to have to provide for my family. So I went to work for the university, raising money for them. As a matter of fact, you probably read a lot about it in the paper, the University of Georgia Foundation. It was just starting at that time, and it was worth only about $250,000. And I worked there from 51 to 53, so about two and a half years. When I left there, the fund was worth about $3 million. So I did pretty well at it. And then I was contacted by a high school friend of mine who worked for Avon Products. And he asked me if I would be interested in going to work with Avon. I said, I don't know. He said, well, I'll arrange an interview. So one day I went up to Atlanta, up here to Atlanta from Athens, talked to the general manager, and evidently the interview went pretty good. About a week later, I got a call from the general manager saying, what would it take to get you here? Well, at that time, I was making over $2,500 a year. That was a lot of money. And I said, well, I don't know. I said, what are you thinking about? He says, how about 5,000? I said, when do you want me? So he said, well, how about sometime in March? I said, fine. So on 3/15/54, I joined Avon Products and was with them for 32 years. Left them in June 30th, 1986. Been retired ever since.
So, where did you meet Mrs. Healey? Was that at Georgia?
At the university, yeah.
And so, have you ever attended any reunions or anything with the veterans organization?
I have not any of the veterans reunions because there really weren't enough of us. And although I did get some invitations, but the naval intelligence was spread out. And our group was a very small group. So I never did hear from anybody that my group that I knew that attended it. So I never did attend any of those. I've gone back to college reunions, and even they were not what I expected, because we had 7,500 that graduated. And you know, you may know 2 or 3 of them when you got there, so I kind of left that off. However, I do contribute to Georgia every year.
Did your military experience influence your career, or how did did it influence your thinking at all?
I think that I think the service helped me to the point of where I had an idea of what I wanted to do. When I would come out of high school, I don't think I knew what I was going to do. But service, that time in there, gave you a little extra time to kind of think a little bit. And I'd venture to say that, yes, the service helped me many, many ways to make sure that I did get further educated, like going to college and trying to get some kind of background that would help me in the future, which I did. And it helped me, the service helped me, my college education helped me when I was with Avon as well. So I feel like my life has been a successful life.
And did your military experience influence what you thought about war? Or
Yes, I think it did. This may sound odd, but I do believe that when I came out of the service, that if the United States had passed a law that said there would be compulsory military training for people between the ages of 18 and 20 for a 1 year or 2 year period, I believe it would have helped not only the country, but helped develop the young people coming out of school. That wasn't done. They didn't ask me, but that's what I thought.
Well, is there anything else you would like to add? Stories you would like to tell?
Some of them I would love to tell, but I think we better leave it the way it is.
Okay.
But I do appreciate the opportunity to put this on film. I really do. I think it's great.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you.